Good evening, Dave Kites again from the Oto Wood Shop. This evening I'm going to make a little video about our new T-40 Harvey lathe. It's been talked about for over a year, and we postponed getting it last year because we didn't have enough money right at the time, or at least we didn't think we did. And now it's a new year and we got more money, so we got our lathe. We bought a T-40, the big Harvey lathe, a 24-inch swing, which is right over there. And shortly after we started using that, we agreed that, as advertised, it is an excellent piece of machinery, and people really liked it using it, and the controls were convenient, and it was just a good machine. So we immediately thought about getting this smaller version of the Harvey, the T-40, which is a 14-inch swing with a 24-inch bed. It has a rotating head. You can pivot the head there's a detent. It's a mild detent, but I can feel it, 22.5, and then it swings around to 45, and then it'll go all the way out to 90 degrees. If you don't catch the cord on the wood, it'll swing all the way to 90 degrees. And then there's a detent at 45, and there's a detent at 22.5. Some people like to swing this out here and sand a bowl or a face piece or something if you do that. You can't get much bigger. Well, you can't really get hardly any bigger than the 14 inches if it's just at this position. But of course, if you turn it all the way out here, you can get quite large. Okay, they make and sell a tool rest, articulated support tool rest that bolts on these holes here, and it comes out and it comes around and it supports the tool rest out in the front here, so you can do face work out here. And it's just like turning off the end, except it's not off the end, it's off the side, and now you've got a lot more room, so you can turn quite a large piece. When you turn large pieces, of course, you get vibration, and it's not real easy to do because you have all this articulated support for the tool, and it's got a big load on it, and it shakes and it vibrates, and you have to develop some skills to do that. So I don't know that we'll see much of that done. We'll probably see some sanding done by turning it out, although I've never done it, but that's probably more because I don't have a lathe that turns like that, so maybe I would if I did. But it has that feature. We had another lathe of a different brand years ago now that also did this. And it was used by several of the members, and when we were going to get rid of that lathe because it got worn out, they wanted us to immediately buy another lathe that had a rotating head. The only one that did it was that particular brand, and we weren't really anxious to get another one of those brands, so we didn't. But now they have their wish back. Some of them are still here. So that's one feature that's different on this lathe. So the controls are all up here on the top. I'll go over them one at a time. The power switch is in the back, down near the bottom here, in the back. You can feel it easy. You don't have to actually see it, but it's in the back. I just turned it off, and see the light went out. Turn back on, light comes on. That's how you know you got power. Okay, so these are the controls to make it run. Remember, before you start operating the controls to make it run, you want to check and make sure the spindle is free. And this is the spindle lock. It's just like the one on the T-40 Harvey. It pulls out. Well, I'm trying to show you, so I'm in an awkward position, but it's as easy to do if you're not trying to make it visible. You pull it out and swing it down. When it gets down here, boom, that spindle is locked, and it really does a super job of locking the spindle. You just rotate it up, and this slanted part here makes it pull it out and disengage it automatically, and it just flips over and it snaps in place, and now it's free. Okay. So now with that known to be free, we can go up here and look at it. Maybe we'll make it run. The emergency stop, the reset button, and the gear shift, and the speed pot. That's all the controls there are. Emergency stop is obvious, and you do not need to use this to stop the lathe every time you want to stop the lathe to look at your work or something. You can use this, just the gear shift. But there's an emergency stop. The reset button is to reset the electronics, the drive. It's not to reset after an emergency stop. You do not have to hit the reset button to reset after an emergency stop. And then the gear shift is R, O, and F. Reverse, off, and forward. Okay? And then, of course, the speed pot and the speed readout. So, to make it run, you turn the power on like you did with the switch down there in the bottom and the back. And then if we're going to go backwards, we switch it over to that right. Had this pot turned down pretty low to 382. And it goes up. That's the max speed for this lathe. We're on the high-speed belt range. I'll show you how to change that in a minute. 4,286 RPM. Quite fast. And to stop the machine, just switch to off, and it stops pretty quickly. It takes a little longer with, of course, work on it because of the inertia, but it still stops pretty quickly. Then to get going again, all you got to do is switch it on. So I'm going forward. It will reverse without pausing in the middle. Doesn't hurt it. And you just turn it off again. Okay. So that's the high speed, all controlled by here. If you're running, that stops even quicker. Okay. So there you go. But then to get going again, you do have to put it back to neutral first, to off, and then switch it back either way, and it comes back on immediately. So it's not a lot of button pushing to get going again. And the reset, like I said, is only for the drive. So you're going to get an error message here, and it's going to say something that indicates the drive is overloaded and tripped out. And you're going to have to hit the reset button to get it to run again. I've never seen that on our T-40, so it doesn't happen very often. So just use the, really the only controls you need to operate are the power switch, the gear shift, and the speed pot. Okay, hopefully you won't have to hit the emergency button, and hopefully you won't have to hit the reset button. So it's pretty simple to use, and don't forget about the spindle lock. Be sure it's unlocked before you start to run it. Okay, then it's a two-speed range system. There's two positions for this little bitty belt. It really looks tiny, but it works. Very simple. Loosen this, lift the motor, that releases the tension on the belt. Move the belt over to the other pulleys. Let it back down. Turn it by hand, make sure it's on both pulleys. You can look in there and see the top pulley, it's in the, and it's down there. Okay. Put a little pressure on it. I don't know, 5 pounds, 6 pounds, 7 pounds, some pounds. Tighten it up. Check again. Looking good. This is magnets. Put back in there. And we're ready to go. Now it's running much slower. The ratio, they're down here. The low range is 60 to 2,800, and the high range is 90 to 4,300 RPM. So we didn't quite get to 43, got 4286. I guess that's close enough. We'll give them that. Okay. So let's see how slow it will go. Well, it says 60 is the low range, but we're doing 44. And it has a lot of torque at 44. Pretty hard. I'm not able to stop it. Okay. So that's the drive system. That works pretty good. The rest of it, there's the wrenches here. That fits the faceplate that they sent with the lathe. It's a 3-inch faceplate. It's in our cabinet with the rest of our faceplates. This fits that faceplate, so I left that wrench here. This will fit in this hole, and it will fit in the same kind of a hole on the faceplate. If you need to tighten it on or loosen it off, you can use this. You don't need to get a wrench or anything. And then there's the knockout bar, which has the, I don't know what you call it, pounder part there. You know, if you've got something in here, a spur drive or whatever, in your Morse taper and you want to get it out, you just go all the way through here, and when it hits the Morse taper, then you boom and catch it. Don't let it fall down and hit the bed. You know, put a nick in the bed, a dent in the bed. So catch it when you pop it out. These are back here. A couple simple holes in the board to hold them up back there. Okay, so there you are. The rest is a pretty standard lathe. We've got our nylon washer here. It's 1.25 inch 8 thread, which means now out of all of our lathes in the shop, 3 of them have 1.25 inch 8, and one has 1 inch 8 threads per inch, and so does our little pen lathe over there. So those 2 little guys, the Jet and the little Rikon, are 1x8s, and these are 1.25 inch 8s. The rest of them are bigger ones. The banjo is a nicely made banjo. It's quite hefty. 14-inch swing, like I said, so it does get a fair amount of load. The banjos on our other smaller lathes are not nearly this substantial, and I have seen them kind of rock over like this. Even when they're tightened down, when you get a tool rest in there that's extended over 5 or 6 inches because you're down inside of a bowl, and then you load it up on that end, those banjos will start doing that, which is not good. So this is a better lathe for bowls that are 8, 10, 12 inches in diameter. Perfect for it. So use that. The tailstock is the same design as the one on the big Harvey. It's very nice. It has a different arrangement here for the lock on the tailstock than most lathes have. This one, when you tighten this down, it screws down, and there's a wedge thing in there that presses, and it's curved, so it fits around the side, the back side of the quill, and just compresses it, pushes it a little bit sideways to lock it in position. The thing that keeps the quill from turning, and this slot is here for that, is another different set screw right here. So they're independent. And we have another big lathe where they tried to put both functions in one tool, or one thing, and you screw the set screw in to not only keep it from rotating, but to tighten it. And that does a couple of bad things. It mashes the edges of the slot. The end of the set screw on that one is smaller on the end, and then it has a shoulder. And the small part's supposed to go in the slot, and the shoulder's supposed to sit on the outside here. And the shoulder's supposed to lock it, and the small part's supposed to keep it from turning. Well, you loosen it up enough, and the small part comes out of the slot, and then the whole quill turns around. So anyway, that's that one. This is not like that. This works real well. This won't ever give you that problem. And the quill operates very nicely. I forget how long it is. Let's find out. Oh, it's a nice long quill. Oh yeah. 4¼ inches, and it has the automatic retract. So when you get down here near the end, there's a thing inside that hits the end of your taper and pops it out. So you don't have to use a tool. It is hollow, nonetheless. If you did have something get stuck in there somehow, it is hollow, and you can put a small diameter rod here. I don't know, a 3/8, it looks like about a 3/8 would go in there. I don't know, let's see if this, I don't think this one will go. Let's see. No, won't. That's too big for it, so. But it is hollow, so you can do that if you need to. So that's him. He's adjusted well, has a stop here. So if you're going to try to take this off because it's in your way here, you have to take this, and we're only going to put this in finger tight. There's no need to put a wrench on it, but it's a stop to keep you from accidentally running the tailstock or the banjo off the end of the bed. This thing, okay? So it's got a hole so you can really tighten it up, but you really don't need to do that. It's just a single hole right there in between the bed rails. Just put it in there and screw it down, finger tight, and it'll do its job. And keep you from accidentally pulling that off the bed. Okay. The legs are 150 pounds, so it's got nice stability to it. The bottom area we're just using right now, I put a piece of scrap down there to hold, those are face shields under there and pillowcases to try and keep them clean. There will be a drape that's going to go across here and cover this whole area so you won't get chips underneath there. We put our tray in the back here so the chips don't go down into the floor in the back either. And a little bit of baffle here to keep them from getting into all of that stuff. We're all very close together in this shop. Everything's close together, so we don't want to get chips all where we can't get at them to clean them up, so we baffle them out. We put that there. We have a light up here which interferes with the video light some, so that's why we didn't have it on when we were doing the video. But it's a nice light and it's helpful. There's power right here, so you can hook up your drills for sanding, power sanding. You can hook up the light. You can do whatever electrical devices you might have that you want to use here. And then, of course, we now in the shop, we've piped air around to the lathes. So in the corner right there, about 6 feet away, there's a stretchy air hose with a nozzle on it. So if you want to use that to blow the dust out of your work, you can just step over there and get it and stretch it over here and use it. If you wanted to, we probably could put a hook or something here so you could hook it on here when you're using it on this lathe instead of having to keep going back over there. Hadn't thought of that before, but we'll put a hook up there and do that, and that'll be good. These uprights may house or may support a dust pickup system on a rail that would go across here, so you could slide a funnel type arrangement with a shop vac hose on it, so you could get it if you're sanding a bowl or spindle work or something here. You could bring that and move it in and out this way and back and forth this way and pick up the dust from your sanding. It won't be enough vacuum to pick up the chips from turning. They're going to go everywhere. Well, not everywhere. They go a certain direction every time you turn a certain way, as we all know. But anyway, they're going to get all over the place, and you'll have to vacuum them up, sweep them up, and vacuum them up. I have an idea. This hasn't got anything to do with this lathe, but there's a hang-on-the-wall dust collector that I am going to see if probably would suit us. Hang in this space we got right here at the end of the lathe. It's got the big plastic bag on the bottom, and so you would vacuum up your multitude of chips from the floor, but they'd all go in that bag, and then you just take the, when the bag gets full, we just take the bag off, tie it off, and put a new bag on, and we've taken care of that. We don't have to empty a shop vac, and we don't have filled up our trash cans with all the turning chips. We can use them for the other waste in the shop. So I think it might be a good idea. So we're going to look at getting one of those and putting it in there, but it's not there yet. So I have used this lathe briefly, a few hours. I found it to perform very well. It's quite powerful, and it maintains the speed very well. It adjusts very quickly and easily. I had no problems with any of it. I found the tool rest and the banjo to be, like I said, very substantial. I've got some long tool rests, and I put one on purpose just to see if I could, how strong it was, and it's very, very good. It's very robust, very strong. So I think you're going to enjoy it. It's finally here, and I'm glad it is.